To be honest with you, Zoe, if we go to the police in South Africa, they don't even have email addresses. They don't even have Wi-Fi. Never mind the training and skills that are needed to deal with this. I think anonymity online is the root of just about all the evil. We saw that as soon as we started identifying who's behind accounts, that stopped immediately because people genuinely thought that they could just say or do whatever they wanted to and never be bust, right? Never be caught.
South Africa faces one of the world's worst gender-based violence crises. Well, actually, we've been facing this crisis. A new fire has been flamed, however, and as the Women for Change campaign calls for a national shutdown in November, it is urging women and members of the LGBTQIA+ community to stop all paid and unpaid work on 21 November 2025. The message is clear. Until South Africa stops burying a woman every 2.5 hours, the G20 cannot speak of growth and progress. A movement that started online, it is showing the true power of the internet to unify, both for good and not so good. From toxic podcasts to shady WhatsApp groups, misogyny, especially online, is thriving. My guest today is someone whose name often comes up when things go horribly wrong online. Emma Sadleir is South Africa's leading social media lawyer, founder of the digital law company, and author of How Not to Mess Up Online. It's officially a guide for teens, but honestly, every parent, teacher, and oversharer on the group chat should read it. We'll be talking about digital harm, platform accountability, online harassment, sextortion, and how internet culture is rewiring the brains of young South Africans. This isn't just about how not to get cancelled, it's about what kind of digital world we actually want to live in. So Emma, I think we both know that the internet is constantly changing, the algorithms, the apps we use, all of it. And I want to ask you, what is the most alarming shift that you've seen in how the internet is affecting the mental and emotional development of teenagers?
Oh, it's such a big question that I think I could answer it for 2 hours. I think that we're starting to begin to begin to understand the impact of growing up online is having from a mental point of view, from a social developmental point of view. And I sound like another old woman coming to say like what not to do. But I think that there has been this generation which has been very, very seriously affected. It was very well documented in Jonathan Haidt's book, which is called The Anxious Generation. I think that opened a lot of people's eyes to the kinds of issues that we're seeing. But we know for sure, Zoe, that the world and teenagers and adolescents in particular are in the midst of a mental health crisis. If we look at mental health issue statistics around the world, depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation, we've never seen numbers like this. And if you look at the timing, it really does coincide with when everybody stopped living so much in the real world and started living more on the online world. So I think that the data is really starting to come out. I think it's really undeniable that it's had a very negative impact on a huge number of adolescents. And I think a whole lot of people are getting together to try and work out what do we do better and how do we make sure that the next generation doesn't go through the same issues.
So we're obviously looking at it as teenagers, but could we look at it a bit more deeply and look at it as a gendered experience with boys versus girls? Is there a difference in how they are currently experiencing the internet?
So I think what we're seeing with the boys is a lot more addiction issues, a lot more issues around online gambling, currency trading, huge pornography issues. Those are quite distinct issues to what we're seeing with the girls. So with the boys, it's also gaming, a lot of online gaming. Those are the key issues, particularly around addiction, sleeplessness, and with the girls, it's a lot more around. I think with the tweens, we see, what I've often called the popularity contest. Kids just so desperate for some kind of affirmation. Like it doesn't really matter who's following them as long as somebody's following them. Who liked that picture as long as somebody liked it. If they post something and it doesn't get enough likes or comments, they'll delete it. This idea that if you get a lot of likes or a lot of followers, that means you're a better person, a more beautiful person, which is absolute nonsense, as we know. But that's something that's quite difficult to understand in the teen-tween brain. We're seeing a lot of peer pressure to be on these platforms very young. In my view, much younger than the kids are ready for. I had a message just this morning from a friend of mine who's got a 10-year-old daughter saying she's desperate to be on Snapchat. All her friends are on Snapchat. What do you think? And she forwarded me this very, very well thought out and compelling plea to please be allowed Snapchat. Absolutely not. If you saw what else I was dealing with before I hopped onto this recording with an 11-year-old girl on Snapchat who's formed a relationship, an online sexual and emotional relationship with a 28-year-old. He says he's 28. I would imagine he's actually quite a lot older. So, of course, those sort of stranger danger issues. Another area which is disproportionately affecting boys is extortion and sextortion. Kids meeting people online. And the victims there, Zoe, are primarily, in my experience, sort of 12 to 20-year-old boys. That's the primary target. You get a DM from a very beautiful girl and you start chatting to them, and then there are pictures exchanged, and then there's unless you pay me 5,000 Rand to my e-wallet, this is going to go viral, or 500 Rand or 100 Rand, whatever the criminal thinks that child has access to. Whereas with the girls who are victims of extortion and blackmail online, it's often for more content. So you've sent me this nude. I'm not who I said I was. I'm going to circulate it. I'm going to put it everywhere. Unless you send me more content, unless you send me a video of you doing this particular thing with this object, or unless you log on to a live video call where you read literotica, and then that's recorded. And then the more content they get, the more blackmailing, the more extortion that goes on. So I do feel that sextortion generally, especially the trying to get money, disproportionately affects boys. And then the other thing I'm seeing a lot of, Zoe, is AI-generated content. So deepfake pornography, deepfakes being created of other children. That is a huge issue. The two biggest issues that I deal with every day, obviously other than cyberbullying, which is an ongoing issue for the duration of my career, but the two biggest issues I'm dealing with are sextortion and deepfakes.
Wow. I feel like that's a completely different world to where a lot of us were in 10 years ago when our parents were telling us and warning us about social media. I mean, we can see it's a prevalent issue, even if you look at the Netflix show that's just recently come out, Adolescence. And when you look at South Africa, specifically with our gender-based violence experience and the current issue that we are facing as a country, how does the digital side of it look to impact that experience moving forward?
Yeah, so I think when it, I often think of image-based violence as an extension of gender-based violence. So image-based violence is a globular term, which I far prefer to a lot of the other terms out there. A lot of people talk about revenge pornography, publishing of leaks. For me, image-based violence is the most obvious term because it's where you use somebody's image to cause them harm. So that can be in the form of bullying. I take a picture of you, take your face, Photoshop it onto a sumo wrestler's body, publish everywhere how fat you are. So it can be that kind of bullying. It can be image-based violence in the form of revenge pornography. So you break up and that content gets circulated. Zoe, I've just been involved in one of the worst cases of my career. It's a case that landed up in two court orders from the Johannesburg High Court in the space of a week. And it was a case where we successfully took Meta to court to hand over identifying information of who was behind anonymous WhatsApp channels and anonymous Instagram accounts. And the sheer scale of the content was something I've never seen before. These kids were creating WhatsApp channels and within an hour or two having 20, 30, 40,000 followers on a WhatsApp channel, all completely anonymous. And they were all variations of the term shade room. So there were these shade rooms that popped up. They were largely geographical in nature. So there was like JHB Joburg South, JHB Durban, JHB Cape Town, and then schools had individual shade rooms as well. And I'm still writing down because I remember there was a school who told me they had a shade room issue and I haven't got back to them. But what they were doing was they were soliciting leaks using various mechanisms, but very often NGL, not going to lie, which is an anonymous add-on on Instagram, where people could anonymously submit the most horrific information. So saying that girls had a body count higher than their age, naming girls who they said had abortions, had STIs, had AIDS, were exchanging sex for marks, were exchanging sex for a transport, or saying that this child was sexually abused by her father. I mean, some of the most horrific content. And then along with that, asking people to send nudes, so leaks, they were calling them, nudes of girls, and videos. There were a few boy victims, but it was 99% girl victims. And just on one of the channels that I was following on the first day of all of this going down, I probably saw 1,000 different girls being named and shamed. And even when the perpetrators of this violence, and it was violence, were alerted to the fact that 2 girls had completed suicide, that 1 girl was in a coma because they'd been named in these leaks, they were just completely robust in their response, basically saying, well, we haven't done anything wrong. They've done something wrong. They took those pictures. Horrific misogyny. We're fixing our country. We're doing our country duty. We're fixing South Africa. We're fixing RSA because these sluts need to be named and shamed. That's how we're going to stop this behavior from these girls. It was the most horrific. And even some of my clever friends were saying, but what are these girls doing sending these pictures? And I was getting so furious, Zoe, because I was like, that victim blaming, that it has zero place in 2025.
So we're making inroads, but do you think this is something that we are currently at the level where South African police are able to police this? Or do you think it's something that people still need to be pursuing at a more personal sort of supportive level?
Yeah, the police, I'm afraid, are wholly ill-equipped to deal with a lot of these issues. We always make ourselves available to victims. Anybody can contact us. We don't charge children. Our website is the Digital Law Company, and you can always DM us on Instagram at the Digital Law Company. And part of this court order, which we got against Meta, is that they have created a hotline for me, for the Digital Law Company, which is my business, which is a sort of a direct hotline to Meta. So where we're dealing with the Meta platforms, WhatsApp, Instagram, and Facebook. The children are not on Facebook, obviously, but we can use that hotline hopefully to try and circumvent the huge issue that we have, which is that the police are ill-equipped to deal with these issues. In theory, the police should have hotlines to these companies, to Twitter, well, X, to Alphabet, which owns YouTube and Google, to ByteDance, which owns TikTok, Snap, which owns Snapchat, and to Meta. They all have these sort of law enforcement takedown mechanisms, which are supposed to fast track requests for identifying information, removal notices. But to be honest with you, Zoe, if we go to the police in South Africa, they don't even have email addresses. They don't even have Wi-Fi, to never mind the training and skills that are needed to deal with this. So we do have a cybercrimes unit if you can access that unit, but you go to your average police station, I'm afraid they're not going to be very useful to you.
Okay, so let me give you a question. Snapchat, TikTok, WhatsApp. You have to kill off one of these apps. What app are you going to take down?
Well, at the moment, I've got a real bugbear against WhatsApp. Because of the WhatsApp channels. So WhatsApp chats, fine. I run my whole business on WhatsApp. It's so helpful. It's so efficient. WhatsApp groups are fabulous. I mean, obviously some are a pain, but WhatsApp, the sort of traditional functionality of WhatsApp, love. WhatsApp channels, a whole nother story. It is unconscionable that WhatsApp LLC, which, I mean, it's all Meta, to be honest, but they told me in the court case that WhatsApp is run by WhatsApp LLC. But basically the problem with WhatsApp, Zoe, is these WhatsApp channels, and I don't know, I mean, most youngsters know about WhatsApp channels and most oldies don't. It's really as simple as that. But WhatsApp channels are a mechanism for mass distribution of content. So it's almost like Telegram's WhatsApp's answer to Telegram. There's no limit to the number of people you can have on a WhatsApp channel. I found a WhatsApp channel which has 350 million people following it. There's no identifying information. You have no idea who created it. No phone numbers are attached. You can only see three things: the name of the WhatsApp channel, how many followers the WhatsApp channel has, and the date and timestamp it was created. It's not encrypted, which is very different to WhatsApp chats. So if you and I are chatting to each other on WhatsApp, so yeah, that chat will be encrypted, which means it's more protected. WhatsApp channels are not encrypted. There is such poor, if not zero, regulation of the content on those WhatsApp channels. I was just made aware of 2 new shade rooms last night. Obviously, I pressed the report button on WhatsApp 20 times, and it's like, oh, thanks for your report. The other thing that happens on WhatsApp channels, Zoe, is that there's no breakdown in the category you're reporting the content for. So if you report something on most social media platforms, you could say, is this child pornography or child sexual exploitation? Is it human trafficking? Is it drug use? Is it suicidal ideation? Is it defamation, harassment, and intellectual property infringement? Now, do me a favor, an intellectual property infringement it's a serious thing, but nobody's going to die over it. Child pornography, very serious thing. How can they treat those two things with the same level of importance, which is actually zero, to be honest? Like, you're never going to get anything deleted. So I think they've got a huge issue with WhatsApp channels. The kind of content I've seen on WhatsApp channels in the last 3 weeks, for me, makes the whole platform of WhatsApp wholly unsuitable for any child of any age.
You spoke earlier about your friend's daughter asking about when is the right time to join Snapchat. And you never actually gave us an age. And I think a lot of people might be listening to this now and thinking, okay, wait, but WhatsApp was supposed to be our platform of communication. There shouldn't be this big issue. When is the right age, I suppose, to be moving on to these different apps? If there is an age per app, maybe you can give it to us?
Well, the official age restrictions that these apps give themselves is 13. But it's a bit like putting Dracula in charge of the blood bank, because obviously they want as many users as possible, because the more users on the platform, the more money they make. It's as simple as that. The earlier they get them, the more addicted they become, the more money they're going to land up making. The only reason that the age of internet adulthood was made 13 was because of an old piece of law. It's like 20 years old. It's in America. It's called the Children's Online Privacy Act, which made it an offense for any company to get information, personal information, data from children if they were under the age of 13, which is why suddenly the age was made 13. It's not because a 13-year-old is suddenly capable of understanding the risks, being able to deal with predators, being able to deal with horrible pornography, horrible gruesome violence. I mean, the kind of stuff that I see on these platforms on a daily basis is just unbelievable. So I'm very strongly of the view that smartphones should be completely banned in primary schools. I think if it's possible to hold out until 16 for any access to social media, and social media that I'm really worried about, Snapchat, TikTok, WhatsApp, Instagram, Discord. I know lots of young kids on Discord because they use it as a sort of an add-on to playing their games. But any platform that's very popular with young kids, I'm afraid, is also very popular with predators. So if I could wave a magic wand, and I do appreciate a lot of people think I'm living in La La Land on this, 16. And Australia has just passed a law which has made it illegal for any child under the age of 16 to be on any social media platforms. And YouTube, at the beginning when this law was passed, which was November last year, was carved out. It wasn't included in social media. In the last few days, that's changed, and they've included YouTube in that social media ban.
So YouTube as well. So then maybe I can ask in this way, podcasting and vodcasting and sort of the regulation for that. I mean, we can look at cases recently in South Africa like MacG and Minnie Dlamini, and we look at that and we think, okay, so clearly there's defamation, and every man in South Africa wants a podcast for some reason. So, is there a way for us to have maybe putting it under terrestrial broadcasting laws? What is our step forward in terms of that move?
I think we've got to be careful about trying to regulate everything. We have laws. As soon as content is published to one other person, we have laws that kick in. We have rules around defamation, around hate speech, around privacy infringements, influencer law. We have rules and laws around intellectual property, image-based violence, child pornography, grooming, exposure, threats, incitement. We've got the laws. We don't need different new laws for every platform. We can use the laws that exist on these new platforms. I wrote an opinion recently for a company, and it was about liability for user-generated content, which was like the most lawyer sentence. I'm sorry. Basically, who's responsible for content published under, for example, your YouTube channel, right? Like the comments. Who's responsible for that? And I relied on a case from 1918 in South Africa because the law is exactly the same. The common law principles are there. If you have the ability to stop it, you're legally responsible for it. It's like having a big notice board where people can come and stick their scrappy pieces of paper. So the law is there. We've seen Nati Baloyi referred to the Equality Court for comments he made in his podcast recently. Racism against white people, which is a thing a lot of people don't believe exists, but it absolutely does. Racism is racism. Anybody can be racist. Anybody can be the victim of racism. Because he said that white people he was talking about how black people are really genetically superior because white people evolve from Neanderthals, and he's been referred to the Equality Court. We saw the Lamini defamation case. MacG's had a lot of issues over the years with defamation. I think a lot of people have the sentiment that the online world is unregulated, that, it's like the wild, wild west, you can do anything. And I can tell you that, the percentages of prosecutions are pretty low compared to how much content we see online, but they are there and they're happening. There was a recent case of defamation against a young TikToker who was in Cape Town, who posted that there was this restaurant that was racist, and that they had a racist door policy that unless a person of color arrived with a white person, they'd be denied entry. And that person's just been a young TikToker, university student, has just been forced to pay 1.25 million rand in damages, plus the legal costs, which takes it over 2 million rand. We're starting to see the cases and cases affecting young people. Not a week goes by. So far this year, not a week has gone by without a parent phoning to say that they have a teenage child who's been arrested because of content that they have sent or content they've created on their phones. So it is happening. I've been warning people for a long time that the laws are there and we are actually seeing them being implemented.
I think a lot of people look at social media and sort of the sort of abuse and doxing, and we think it's happening at a more international level. Because the stories that we're talking about now, I suppose we can't put a pin in one person, but say now this is happening at a wider level and we can't quite place the person. What policies do we have to sort of look to in terms of finding this person? And I don't know, what happens to them?
Well, I've been warning people for a long time, don't think you can be anonymous online. And that's exactly what we've just proved in this case with Meta, where we basically established the rule and law in South Africa that these companies must hand over identifying information. They are the keeper of the keys. Unless they told us, which they did land up telling us because they were ordered to by the court, but unless they tell us the identifying information that they hold of a perpetrator, the email addresses, phone numbers, the device information, every IP address that was used in the creation of content, the creation of accounts, the sending of content, unless we were able to identify the actual perpetrators, then every time we got something shut down, they would just pop up somewhere else. And so they did hand over all that identifying information, which allows us to identify who's behind that content, that conduct, and take criminal steps against them, criminal and civil steps against them. Anonymity has historically been the biggest issue. I hate anonymity. I think anonymity online is the root of just about all the evil. We saw that as soon as we started identifying who's behind accounts, that stopped immediately because people genuinely thought that they could just say or do whatever they wanted to and never be bust, right? Never be caught. And that's certainly not the case. So yes, sometimes we need to get law enforcement involved. Sometimes we need to bring court orders to get that identifying information. Sometimes, though, it's as simple as me phoning my mate in Cape Town and saying, Jean, can you have a look at this Instagram account? It's a confessions account or whatever. Can you see who's behind it? And he replies within 3 minutes, it's this person. Because forensic people are clever, right? And I know everyone thinks they're clever with their VPNs and their what's, but they're not as clever as the forensic people we hire to find out who's behind content. So I think that so much of what we're saying, Zoe, is it comes down to just be a good human, right? Like instead of looking for ways to cause people harm and not be caught, what we really should be focusing on is, like, why would you want to cause somebody harm? I always say in my talks to schools, and I speak at schools every day, if anybody in this room has ever created an anonymous account to cause another person harm, you are not a nice person. You need to go and have a chat with yourself in the mirror. You need to do better. And with the Shade Room content, I was so affected by not just the scale of the content, but the nature of particularly the sexual acts depicted, we're talking about misogyny. The videos that I saw of these teenagers involved in sexual acts was not about love, romance, pleasure. It was almost like it was in itself so misogynistic. This idea that's manosphere, incel culture, the kinds of issues that are canvassed I think very well in the Netflix series you referred to earlier. It was using women as objects. It was strangling and hitting and pulling hair, lots of pulling hair, like nobody wants to have their hair pulled. I can tell you that, right? Like nobody wants to have their hair pulled. And it's just, I think what we're starting to see, Zoe, is the effect, which people warned us about, of having pornography as your sex education. And I think that South African children are particularly vulnerable. Large swathes of the South African population have very conservative parents. If I think of all my black mates, like their parents, the rules around nudity, for example, like you don't talk about sex with your parents. You've never seen them naked. It's like, it's a very, very conservative, often a very conservative society. My parents in South Africa. And I think that access to pornography at such a young age is having the impact that we are seeing. This kind of misogyny playing out in all sorts of areas of these teenagers' lives. But, I think that what might be of relevance is I'm just thinking of the statistic that was released by the police in the United Kingdom last year. And for the first time in history, in 2024, sexual offences committed against children, for these purposes under the age of 18, for the very first time, more than 50% of the perpetrators were children themselves. Historically, it's been horrible adults committing sexual offences against children. And now what we're seeing is sexual offences being committed by children against other children. In the majority. And I can tell you on the ground in South Africa, we don't have official stats like that. I can tell you I'm seeing the same.
You're seeing the same?
I'm seeing the
that's
same.
Terrifying. That's terrifying. So what's the next step for us as South Africans? What is the very next move?
Well, I think that we need to do better. As a society, we need to do better. We need to protect our children from early exposure to pornography. And I'm by no means a prude. As I say, I think consensual sexting between teenagers should be decriminalized. But I think that an 8-year-old seeing pornography, and the pornography is not like a Playboy magazine underneath somebody's father's bed. It's, if just the landing screen on a platform like Pornhub. The most popular genres often involve violence. It's very different. The world that the kids are growing up in now is very, very different. I think that it would be great to have an opt-in to pornography rather than an opt-out, which is the current status quo. So, for example, when I was studying in England, if I wanted to look at a porn site, I had to phone the service provider and say, please allow me access. I'm an adult and please allow me access. Whereas in South Africa, if a 6-year-old writes an SEX in Google, they're going to uncover the most horrific content, right? Because it's available and you can phone and opt out, or you could put on your Wi-Fi routers, etc. You can opt out and put settings in place. But what I'm seeing is parents get jumping onto that train far too late. So I think education is absolutely critical, which is, I promise you, it's not fun writing a book. The book launch is fun, but it's not fun writing a book. It's exhausting. But we wrote it because we really want to get this into as many hands of tweens and teens as we possibly can. We'd love to make it a book that's on the syllabus. We'd love to get it in every library in the country. And I've got aspirations of getting corporates involved to try and sponsor these books at cost, to try and just get them out there as much as possible. It's a book I wrote with my colleague Rourke Wilson, who is an older Gen Zer themselves, and so it's really written in a tone which hopefully appeals and resonates to and with children, teens, tweens. And the feedback that we've got so far, because it's just been launched very recently, has been that it hopefully does the job, right? So we carry on with our luta continua. The struggle continues. We are at schools every day saying the same thing again and again and trying to get to as many people as possible, because I genuinely believe, Zoe, that prevention is better than cure. If we can get hold of kids and get them the knowledge before they mess up, and keep the children who are too young to be responsible in these online spaces. And it's no judgment on the child. These children are geniuses, but it's just that their frontal lobe is not there yet. Like, they really do not have the impulse control. They do not have the emotional, mental, even physical responsibility to be safe in these online spaces. And I sound like an old granny saying this. I do appreciate that. Like, I really do. I would love to be like,
Never,
everybody gets
never,
a phone,
never.
be like Oprah, and they're super safe. They're just not safe, right? Like, you should. I promise you, if you spent 1 hour looking at my inbox, you'd need a couple of Xanors, maybe a few glasses of wine, and you would not give your child a phone until they were 21. I promise you, you would just not even believe the kind of stuff I see.
Emma, quick fire questions. Let's go. What's the best thing about the internet?
The best thing about the internet is staying in touch with my friends around the world.
Worst thing about the internet?
Predators.
What is your most used emoji right now?
Laughing face emoji. And I'm still old, so I use a laughing face and not a dead face.
Fair enough. Have you ever had to delete a post in a panic, and what was it?
Yes, often. And it takes me to a very important test. It's a very, very scientific test. It's called the jump in the tummy test, right? When you're just about to press post, tweet, send, share, and you get that feeling in your tummy just before you press send, that like, that, then close your eyes and think to yourself, would you put this on a billboard next to your name, the name of your school or company you work for, a huge photograph of yourself? If you wouldn't, don't let it exist. I've had to go back and delete. I mean, thank goodness not for a few years, because I'm getting older and wiser, but certainly in the beginning of social media. And even now, Zoe, like, I'll get on Facebook, because I'm still on Facebook, because I'm old. Oh, this is what you were doing 10 years ago. And I'm like, no, delete.
OnlyFans, yay or nay?
Nay.
Are there any platforms you would never join?
No.
So you work in online
I'm nosy.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on all the platforms.
Yeah,
even if it's
you need to know where their enemies are.
The bad and the ugly. Like, even these WhatsApp channels that I'm on, because I have to be, like, they are like, I can't even explain to you how awful the content is, but I'm there because I need to be.
If you had to make your own Emma's golden rule for WhatsApp groups, what would it be?
Admin only.
What do you mean by that?
It means that only the admin can send messages, so you don't get 1,000 messages an hour. Yeah, I mean, people are like... Nobody needs to receive emojis from your colleagues at midnight, right? Like, choose life. And WhatsApp groups can be useful, can be helpful, but remember that they can be intrusive.
You work in online harm, but what's one meme or video that always has you laughing?
My colleague Rourke is the boss of GIFs, but the boss, and also calls them GIFs. And there is humor every day of my life on my WhatsApp chat with Rourke.
Okay, last one. What's something you secretly love about the internet, even with all its chaos?
I'm a very nosy doll, and I like to know what's going on. And it's not just celebrities. Like, I'll see on the most random group, oh, Photoshop this picture for me. It'll pop up on my feed. And then I spend half an hour of my life learning about some random person on the other side of the world that I have never and will never meet. But my curiosity for humans has no end.
I'm glad. I think that's the biggest takeaway from this whole chat, is to stay curious and stay on top of it. Emma Sadleir, thank you so much for your conversation, and a big shout out to you for bringing out another book. And hopefully, where can we get it? One last thing, where can we get your book?
Everywhere.
Everywhere, and you should get it everywhere.
On Take-A-Lot, on Loot. Yeah, thankfully it's very well stocked and all over the place.